This seems like a good time to show you fade and crossfade options. So let's go to Setup, and then down to Preferences, and then the Editing tab, and let's look at our fade settings. Usually when we write a fade, we want to check it in context, and the default pre-roll and post-roll settings are 3 seconds, 3000 milliseconds. There's a box for Preserve Fades when editing. I'll just show you how this works. If this box is checked, I say OK, and I write a fade, and then I chop part of the area with the fade in it. I'm just going to hit the delete key and make that go away. It did preserve the fade, as much of it as it could. So let's go back to Setup, Preferences, uncheck that box, say OK. Let's undo that fade. And this time, if I hit delete and I erase this region that I've selected, this part of this clip, the fade goes away with it. So that's what preserve fades when editing means. Let me undo that, and we're back to where we were. Let me go back to Setup and Preferences. And if I change fade out to a more parabolic shape, something like that, say OK again, and then write a fade into a region, I get a more parabolic fade than we've seen before with the Smart tool. Back to Setup, back to Preferences, back to Fade Out, and I have lots of other shapes, S-shaped, and many other shapes here too that I can choose from. So I'm going to go back to my linear shape. I like that one. Actually, my standard. And by the way, if you mess around, I'm just clicking and dragging this line, and you go, I don't think I like that shape of a fade. Hit Option, click, and it'll set it back to its default. All right, let's look at some options for crossfading. So blue is out and red is in. So we can adjust them simultaneously because they're linked here at the bottom. If I change to none, then I can adjust the blues independent of the reds. I'm going to option click and set these guys back to where I want them. So equal power, equal gain. What's that all about? The rule of thumb here is it's equal power most of the time. So I'll select that. We're usually crossfading between things that are not phase coherent, like these two music tracks that I've been dealing with back here, or from one sound effect to another. We use equal gain when we're crossfading from one iteration of a drum loop to the next iteration of the same loop. I'll say OK. I'll say OK again. Let me get rid of this fade. And this time we'll go to the Edit menu, and way down here at the bottom is Fades. So there are 3 handy commands here. The first is Command F. It's Control F on a PC. So what that means is I grab and I select, and I Command F, and I get a little window that lets me draw the fade. Let's just say I want equal power and standard. And the fade draws in. Now, a couple things to notice here. I wasn't very precise when I selected the end. It doesn't matter. Pro Tools can only fade to the end of the track, and that's what it does. So even if you grossly overestimate the length of your fade, it will only just fade to the end. That's all it can do. You can't select the middle and Command F. I'm trying that. I'm hitting Command F and nothing will happen. I can fade in at the beginning. Command F. And now I have a red box, similar to the blue box for fading out, and I can write a fade into the beginning. So for this to work, your selection has to include either the beginning or the end of the clip. You can't do it in the middle. Okay, let me undo that and undo this fade. I'm just hitting the delete key. And I'll show you 2 more interesting keystrokes. So let's say we want to fade from here to the end. I can select a start point for the fade, and then Option G, and write the fade from where I started to the end. There's one for the front too. I can select an end point for the fade in, Option D, and write a fade in at the beginning. Now notice that these are different. This one's linear and this one's parabolic, and that's because of the shapes that I wrote in this menu when I did fade. That's how I like to set it up. In the Setup and Preferences that we saw, I like to have linear fades. Those are the ones you'll get with the Smart tool. And then in the Fades menu, at the bottom of the Edit menu, In the Fades pop-up dialog, I like to set parabolic fades, and that's what I get with Command F, or Option D and Option G. That may be way more than you wanted to know about fades, because most of the time we're content if it just gets softer and goes away, and sometimes these choices are overkill. But then again, a well-timed fade can be a thing of beauty. So, if you want to know more about fades and crossfades, the Pro Tools Reference Guide has a whole chapter on fades and crossfades and all the intricacies of fades, equal power, equal gain. You can become an expert on fades and crossfades.